All right, so we'll just go ahead and get started. Welcome to the College of Engineering's webinar for experiential learning. We actually do have, or this is just the second webinar in a series of 3 webinars. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is the second webinar in the series so far, and all of the videos are going to be recorded and posted on our website, so you'll be able to see that later, as well as the slides with any links and things like that. Last week, we had a webinar on the first year experience, which is already uploaded on the website, so you can go ahead and check that out after this. And today's is about experiential learning or experience-based learning. So we're going to talk a little bit about all the different opportunities you have to get involved outside of the classroom. Next week on April 21st, we're going to have another webinar that is more geared towards the parent and guardian information. And it's actually going to feature some staff members to answer any questions that you might have. So make sure to tune in for that as well. Throughout this whole thing, you can ask questions via the Q&A button that we have, and we have different ambassadors working on the back end that will answer these questions along the way. We will also answer questions as a whole at the end during our Q&A session. So go ahead and start asking questions as you see fit, or wait till the end, whatever you prefer. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Sneha. I'm a 4th year industrial engineering student. I'm also the president of the Engineering Student Council, and I'm an intern at the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Also, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm going to pass it off to Jack.
Hey, my name is Jack Malice. My pronouns are he, him, his. I work in the Career Center, and I also am in the Honors College. I'm going to pass it off to Grace.
Hi everybody, my name is Grace. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a 3rd year studying mechanical and manufacturing engineering. I participate in Concrete Canoe, Global Formula Racing. I'm an ambassador, and I also participate in Leadership Academy. I'm going to pass it on to Riley.
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm a 3rd year in chemical engineering. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm involved in undergraduate research, the Honors College, and the Society of Women Engineers. And I'll pass it off to Ellie.
Hey everyone, I'm also a 3rd year bioengineering student. I go by she, her, hers, and I'm involved in a couple different clubs, including Women's Ultimate Frisbee, Leadership Academy, undergraduate research, and chemical, biological, and environmental engineering. And I'll pass it back to Sneha.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All of us are College of Engineering ambassadors. Essentially, this program is a group of students. We work on student success and outreach and recruitment through events such as this. Obviously right now the events are virtual. Usually we give lots of tours on campus and things like that. And we also stay connected with our alumni. Today's agenda for the webinar is that we're going to talk about student organizations and clubs that are offered, research opportunities, career development center, the leadership center, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, tutoring, Honors College, and like I said earlier, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, but make sure you can start answering or asking questions now. So starting with student organizations and opportunities for students to get involved outside of the classroom, our College of Engineering sponsors 65 total engineering student organizations, and this ensures a legacy of student success both on campus as well as worldwide. It's, in my opinion, the heart of our student life and a great way to make friends, get involved outside of the classroom, and develop yourself professionally. Every student has an opportunity to meet these clubs at our Cookies and Clubs Fair before class starts every fall. And a little bit more information about this is available in the first year experience webinar. One of these organizations is called AIAA, or the American Institute of Astronautics and Aeronautics. It's a top-ranked design build fly team in this country that is from an institution without an aerospace program. And it's really great. Our team has 8 sub-teams, and you basically design and build rockets and planes on a multidisciplinary team. And students get to compete in a large-scale competition, and we often get first as well. And the next organization that we'd like to highlight is Engineers Without Borders, or also known as EWB. This is a multidisciplinary student-led group that focuses on humanitarian engineering. Engineers Without Borders partners with communities all around the world and works with them to get access to sustainable potable water. Currently, they have projects in Nicaragua and Cambodia. We have the Society of Automotive Engineers, and within the Society of Automotive Engineers, we have two groups, Global Formula Racing and Beaver Racing Baja. So for the Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE Global Formula Racing team, this team actually consists of students both from Oregon State University as well as students from DHBW Ravensburg in Germany, which is actually one of the only existing global collaboration of global formula racing teams. They compete in global competitions with 2 electric race cars, of which one is driverless. We've been national champions many times, beating schools like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and Caltech. SAE Beaver Racing Baja team is actually another sub-team under SAE, and they actually design and race an off-road vehicle that can jump and land off of 5-foot cliffs without ever losing speed. And clubs such as AIAA as well as SAE typically consist of senior capstone teams or senior design projects, which are basically groups of seniors that are primarily responsible for that current year's design and performance. However, all levels of experience are welcome to help on any stage in these projects and clubs, and it's multidisciplinary, so you don't need to be in any specific major or year to participate in any of these clubs. If a student wants to get involved regardless of those things, there will always be something for them to do. And sometimes more upperclassmen or more experienced upperclassmen members can teach underclassmen new machining and manufacturing skills along with other things. It's honestly peer mentoring at its best. Lastly, we have some community student groups which are sponsored by the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, and we'll go into a little bit more information about the center a little bit later. But these amazing student groups are meant to build community, to support students of all identities and backgrounds with professional development opportunities, community building, outreach work, things like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about what these, what the Center for Diversity and Inclusion does a little bit more. So for now, I'm going to hand it off to Ellie, and she's going to talk about research opportunities and exploration outside of the classroom.
Sweet, thanks so much, Sneha. Yeah, so like Sneha said, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about research opportunities and a couple of other things today. All right, so first, to get started, a little bit about Oregon State is that we're one of, basically we're a very funded research university, which means that there's a lot of funding going into our research, including $439.7 million in grants and contracts. And so basically what that means to us students is there's a lot of money going into funding research, and that's an opportunity for us to get involved in certain things. And in my opinion, research is one of the highlights of my academic career at Oregon State, and something that I think everyone should at least try, or if they're interested, to get into a little bit more. So yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that today. So with that, there's a couple different ways to get involved with research, one of them being the research experience for undergraduates. And this is a 10-week summer internship experience. And basically you work with different faculty and professors on very applicable research projects. So that's one thing that I really like about research is it's very applicable, and you can really hone in on something like real world issues, which is really nice. So some perks about it is it broadens your perspective of your major field, as well as deepens your understanding of specific areas. So basically, because we have so much money going into research, you can find some type of project that you'd be interested in working in within your major. And that's really cool because you can get some experience on something that you might really enjoy doing later on in your professional career. Along with that, you can advance your technical skills. So in the lab, there's a lot of different technologies and new equipment that you could be using, and advancing your skills on that, which is really cool. So another thing we like to emphasize is our undergraduate research for the scholarships in the arts, and this is also known as URSA Engage. And this is a really cool program that actually I was involved in, and I'm sure some of the other ambassadors are involved in as well. So if you want to get more information on that, definitely ask some questions about it. But for that program, it's about 15 weeks, and it spans from winter to spring term. And so you apply for it during the end of the fall term. And this is a really cool program for first and second year students, as well as first year transfer students. So it's basically a way to kind of get your foot in the door with research. And how that process works is you actually will you'll apply to the program, and then they'll give you a big list of different professors to look into. And basically you look into all these different professors that are organized by different majors, and they'll give you a little bit like a briefing on their project, and then you can just go and reach out to them, ask for opportunity, and then just connect with them later. And then within that URSA Engage program, you actually also will get a $750 stipend, which is really cool. Some other opportunities we have is just reaching out to professors. So this is really cool once you are in classes and you're at Oregon State and you're figuring out your schedule and things, and you really get in the niche of like what you want to be doing, maybe what you're interested in. You can reach out to individual professors and ask them questions and maybe try to get into their research lab. One way we like to advise you to do this is to review their websites and maybe recent papers and publications they have before you actually contact them. This just gives you a way to ask questions to them and kind of like start the conversation. A lot of research professors are really willing to give students the opportunity to learn more about their work. So once you research a little bit more about them, that just shows that you have that initiative and you want to be a part of their lab, which gives them more reason to have you join their team, which is the whole point, and a really cool experience if you get the chance. Another thing you could do is check the website and weekly newsletters to see different opportunities that are popping up. So a little bit more about different opportunities at Oregon State involves the Career Development Center. And one of our ambassadors is actually a student worker on this team. So if you have more questions, you can ask him later. But yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this program. So really this program allows you to develop your skills on becoming a professional engineer. And there's a bigger program, Career Development Center at Oregon State, but there's a specific one for engineering, and that's located in Johnson Hall, and they have drop-in hours every day, which is really awesome. And like I said, Jack, one of the ambassadors, is one of the trained students that work there. Also, there's Career Development Center staff who work there, and these people are just trained and they're really able to help you just get information you need. I've been there multiple times and they've helped me with my resume as well as cover letters. They just help you go through it and pretty much like really get in there and try to make it so that you sound professional and that you're gonna look the best you can when you're applying for jobs. They also help with interview tips and job navigating jobs and things like that. So this is a really helpful resource that is provided free to students at Oregon State, and it's a great opportunity. So I would definitely look into it once you get here. Another resource we have is our career fairs, and this is another great opportunity to network with different employers and things, people who are on a professional level, industry partners, things like that. And there are over 250 different companies that come each term, and they're here to network with students. You don't have to be looking for a job necessarily to go to one of these things. They're really there to just rep their company, and they're awesome teams. And sometimes you can even like get internships or jobs out of it. Sometimes it's just about, telling them your name, and so they have a familiar face when you're looking later into jobs, or giving them your resume. And sometimes they even do like right on the spot interviews, so that you can actually maybe potentially get an interview or a job from that career just from going to the career fair. So it's a really great opportunity. And along with that, there's also networking events. So I'm specifically in bioengineering, so sometimes there's specific bioengineering major career fairs that allow you to talk to companies that are more involved within your major, which is really nice. So a couple other things that we like to recommend for students is just different resources that are online. These include Handshake, which is a great job posting resource. And so basically you get on there and you type in what jobs you might be looking for, your major specifically, and they'll give you a whole list of different companies who are hiring for internships and jobs. Another resource we have is BMOC, and that's a resume resource. So it's available for all Oregon State students, which is really nice. And basically you upload your resume and they'll give you instant feedback on what you can do better, what language you could use better, and things like that. And that's a really helpful resource that I've used multiple times while I'm here, and it's helped me get some internships and things that I've wanted. Other resources include Focus 2, which is a career assessment app, as well as Standout, which is there to help you for interview practice, and Going Global, which is there to help you for international opportunities. And one thing that we didn't mention in the slides that I like to point out is also LinkedIn. That's one of the most popular professional development apps, and basically it's there to help you network and things like that. So those are all great apps to look into, and yeah. All right, so while we're on the topic of internships and co-ops, I would like to point out that they're not required to graduate, but they're really highly recommended. I think every industry professional, if you have an internship or some type of research background, you're just more likely to get that job. So having an internship is really helpful. I would also like to say that internships are great because they allow you to get like a little taste test of a certain like position or job, so that you can figure out if that's something you want to do or if it's something you really don't want to do. And if it's something you don't want to do, that's a really great information, because then you don't have to be spending your whole job trying to do that, or like moving jobs. It's just a little tidbit, and then if you don't like it, you don't have to do it, and if you like it, then that's really great. But internships are just really good experience, and a good advice to try to get to navigate through your professional career. And so the Career Development Center, as well as apps like Handshake and LinkedIn, can help you get to those internships and co-ops that you want to be in. All right, and then one more thing I'd like to point out is one of the most popular internship opportunities that Oregon State offers, and that's Meetup. And this is 2 6-month-long paid internships. And so with this program, you'll be going into your, you'll apply for it during your sophomore year. And then if you get into the program, it'll be your spring and summer of your junior and senior year. So what that means is instead of a 4-year degree program, you're pushed to a 5-year degree program. But I wouldn't want that to discourage you from this program. It gives you a lot of really good experience, and sometimes even jobs outside of once you graduate from college. I know a lot of my friends who have gotten job offers through their Meetup internships, so it's a really great program, as well as it's a paid internship. So the average is about $20,000 per internship, and that's just average, so you could get paid a little more or less depending on what company you're at. Another great thing is because it's 2 paid internships, what Meetup, the program really tries to get you into 2 different working environments. So one environment could be with a small company, and the other one could be with a big company. So you can kind of get a feel of what you like more or less. And that's really helpful. So it's offered for mostly all of the engineering majors except bioengineering, which is unfortunate for me. But again, there's a lot of different opportunities for internships with Oregon State. So. And the last thing I want to talk about today is Leadership Academy and the Leadership Center here at Oregon State. With the Leadership Center, basically this is a space that helps you hone in on your leadership skills, and it's the home of Leadership Academy, which I'll talk to you about in just a second. But I would like to say that with this space, it's in Johnson Hall, and it's a great space just to go in and study, and there's a lot of windows, and it's a really great place to just hang out with people and ask questions about leadership. There's always someone in there who's willing to talk to you about it. But like I was saying before, it's home to Leadership Academy, which is a professional development group. And it's kind of like a degree program in its own way. So basically you go to all these different workshops and things. And if you complete a certain amount of events, then you graduate from the program, which looks really good on a resume. And with that, it just gives you a lot of different skills, including just working on your soft skills and your professional skills that you will need once you get graduate school and move on to a professional workplace. So a couple things that you could do are working with different seminars and workshops. This includes Soup Camp, which is like a mock interview day. So I did that this year, and we worked with different people from industry come and they interview you with just for practice, and then they give you feedback. I did about 4 different interviews, and then we had lunch, which was really cool. Another program that Leadership Academy offers is the Summit, and that's a bunch of industry people also coming in and talking to you about different subjects within the professional world, as well as a couple of keynote speakers that are really interesting to listen to. We also have different industry tours and different treks. So we have our Seattle trek and our Bay Area trek, and those are about weekend-long trips, and you will actually go to Seattle or the Bay Area and go to a bunch of different companies. You get to tour their facilities and ask a bunch of questions and just network with those people, which is a really good opportunity and something that is pretty much free with the Leadership Academy. And then along with that, there's just a bunch of other different workshops and things that can help you develop those professional skills. And along with Leadership Academy, there's also a part of it called the Grand Challenge Scholars Program. And this is a program that is focused on the National Academy of Engineers, and there are 14 goals that they want to meet by the 21st century. So those include health, sustainability, joy of living, security, and a bunch of other things. So you'll get a team together and you'll make a research project or something that revolves around one of those goals. And then you will submit it to the National Academy, and you could potentially win this program. And it's a nationwide thing, so it looks really good on a resume. And it just gives you experience with teamwork, leadership, and being collaborative. So that's a really cool program if you're interested on doing something that's more hands-on and something that looks really good for your career. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Riley, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit more about the Center for Diversity and Inclusion.
So the center's mission is to support and empower students who are traditionally underrepresented in engineering. So on this next slide, there are a number of the groups that the center supports. So these are some of the groups, and the neat thing about the center is that within these groups, clubs have formed that are kind of designed to empower and build community within these underrepresented groups, and the center supports these clubs directly. So what that means is that they get access to Saeed, who organized these webinars for you guys, and she helps out with figuring out how to go to conferences, figuring out funding, other logistical things that the clubs might need help with, or just giving advice for how to run the clubs. And then they all meet every few weeks and talk about what's going on within each club and what's going on in the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. And this helps kind of build community among these clubs. And so it's kind of just this great way to support other people who might need supporting within engineering and who might be harder to find were you not involved with all of these. The center also does more than support various clubs. So they organize a lot of events. Just this last term, they held a supply drive for the Human Services and Resource Center. That was a huge success. So they were able to get a bunch of clubs to bring in like dorm-friendly foods, hygiene products, a number of other things that the center needed. And then the center is able to distribute those to students who may need those. So that was really cool. They also organized luncheons. So these luncheons are oftentimes with companies who want to speak with the affinity groups that the center supports. And I've been to a couple of these luncheons, and they're pretty neat because you get to network directly with representatives from the companies. So that's a great opportunity, not only to just build your network, but also to maybe get jobs or internships from these companies, or to learn more about a field that you're interested in. And in addition to this, there are also socials and de-stressing events. So one of the my favorite ones that I went to recently was a rock painting event. So I got to go to the craft center, and we all were painting rocks and eating pizza, and I got to meet people from other clubs, and that was really fun. So a lot of things that the center does throughout the year. And then up next, we'll talk a little bit about some of the tutoring resources that the university offers. So the university offers a number of different tutoring resources that are all free to students. So they have class-specific tutoring, general tutoring, and they're offered in a couple of different formats, so you can kind of try them all out and see what works best for you. And all of the tutors are current students who are either graduate or undergraduate students. So they've all taken these classes, they know what you're going through and know the best ways to study for all of these. So the College of Engineering offers engineering-specific tutoring. So these are all of your maybe first or second year classes that you might need help with. And these are the subjects that they offer tutoring in. And this tutoring is based in Johnson Hall, which I'm sure you will all become very familiar with once you reach Oregon State. And once again, all of this tutoring is free to students. So the next thing that we offer are supplemental instruction tables. So these are a little bit different from tutoring. They're study groups that meet every week. So it's really structured and it kind of gives you the activation energy to start studying for something where you might have not studied for it as proactively with, on your own. So these meet each week for about an hour, and there are leaders who go to your lecture and they prepare, and then they help you like work together to study for these for your courses. And these are only offered with certain courses, so a lot of them are going to be your first and second year courses, so definitely check those out once you get here. And then this one is near and dear to my heart. I probably spent like 5 hours a week freshman year in the Math and Stats Learning Center. It's super nice. It's staffed 9 to 5 most days with math tutors who are there to just help you with your math homework. So that's a super helpful resource. We also have other subject-specific tutoring resources, and they all have kind of cute names. So we have the Wormhole for physics help. And then we also have the Mole Hole, and that one is for chemistry help, and the Vole Hole, and that one is for biology help. And if you have more questions about those once you get here, like what are their schedules, you can go to the front desk of the library, or you can check on the website, and it'll have up-to-date schedules for that term. We also have the Writing Center. So the Writing Center is located in the library, and it's super helpful if you've been taking a lot of engineering classes and you haven't been writing a ton and you need some help like kickstarting your writing abilities again. I know I have. So they'll help you with a number of things. Brainstorming, editing are a couple, but they'll also help you like find resources within the library or just like straighten out your writing skills. So they're a really helpful resource. We also have the Academic Success Center. This is a little bit different than all of the tutoring resources. So it's in Waldo Hall, and they offer academic coaching. So this means that if you're having trouble figuring out how to study for college courses, because they're a little bit different from high school courses, they can help you create a plan of action and figure out how to tackle these courses and study more effectively and efficiently. And they can also point you to different resources around campus, which is pretty nice. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the Honors College. So I'm in the Honors College right now, and I think a common misconception is that balancing the Honors College on top of engineering is maybe too much to be able to do. But I think a good way to look at it is seeing the Honors College as an extra resource rather than some other obligation that you have. The Honors College is really nice because it lets you have access to smaller class sizes. So what that means in engineering is you might have a large engineering lecture, but your studio, currently I'm in a 5-person studio that's taught by the professor. So the professor knows my name. I get to interact with them like 3 times a week, face-to-face. Well, not face-to-face right now over this Zoom, but we get to interact. They know who I am, and I get kind of like special teaching attention, which is really nice. And the Honors College also gives you opportunities to go deeply into something that you might not have gotten to learn about before. So one of the ways you can do that is through the Honors College Thesis, which is a requirement to graduate with honors. And this is really cool because it's open-ended. So as long as it qualifies to be a thesis, which is a pretty loose qualification, you're able to do pretty much anything you want and delve pretty deep into something, which is really fun. And they also offer a few other social events outside of this where you get to kind of learn more about other fields, interesting subjects that you want to learn more about, or anything like that. So definitely check out the Honors College if that's something that interests you. And then I will hand it back to Sneha now to talk about some other resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Riley. This slide basically just has some links to more information about some of the things we talked about, as well as our email contacts. Don't worry too much because we're going to upload this to our website, so you'll be able to see it online and access all of those. But other than that, this is basically everything we had to share with you. Up next, we have our Q&A session. So go ahead and start typing your questions into the Q&A function. Other than that, our email is here, coe.ambassadors@oregonstate.edu. If you have any questions after this presentation, make sure you email us there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can answer some of your questions.
Alrighty. Well, some questions that we got. The first one I'm going to address is what's the difference between a co-op and an internship? An internship is more going to be kind of one set chunk of time for that, usually for a company. So if I applied to an internship, say at HP, that would look like I would probably be there either for 3 or 6 months, depending on whatever program that they have. And then the next summer, I wouldn't be guaranteed another position there unless they asked me to come back. It's basically, they just want you to be there and kind of learn what you can learn for that period of time. And you're not really like working with the company beyond that. A co-op is a cooperative program with a company. So for example, I'm in a cooperative program, so I have a 4-year contract with the company I'm with. So I'm with them for 2 summers and then 2 years after I graduate. So it's kind of, they're a little bit different. You still get the experience, but internships allow you a little bit more flexibility as far as moving from program to program, kind of testing out what you like a little bit more. So that's kind of what the difference is between those. I'm going to pass it on to Jack for the next question.
Okay, so the second question is, what is the difference between MECOP and CCAP? The main difference is MECOP is for multiple engineering cooperative and CCAP is civil engineering cooperative. So it's kind of different majors that they're targeting, but the programs and entering them and kind of how the internships go are pretty similar. Okay, I'm gonna pass it on to Grace.
The next question is computer science part of the College of Engineering? Yes, it is housed within our college or our School of Electrical Computer Engineering and Computer Science. So if you were looking to do computer science as a major, you would be in the College of Engineering. I'm going to pass it on to Jack.
Okay, so the question is, what advice would you give to a first-year student? I would say that take advantage of all the free resources. We have a lot of different tutoring options for students, and that helped me out a lot. So I'm going to pass it on to Grace.
I'm actually going to pass it on to Riley and Ellie and Sneha, see if they have any advice for first-year students as well.
Yeah, my advice would definitely be get involved and go to as many events as you possibly can and learn things outside of the classroom, because it's really easy to get caught up in engineering and engineering homework and things like that. So go to one of the cultural centers and things like that so you can keep expanding outside of the classroom.
My advice is similar to Sneha's. I would say right now, or when you're in your first year, when you have all this spare time, join as many clubs as you can and try to figure out which ones you like, so that later when you have a little bit less spare time, you already know what you're interested in and you can devote more time to that.
Yeah, I would definitely say similar things. I think your first year is really about expanding your horizon. You know, it's the first time you're really on your own, so to say. So you have a lot of freedom and you can play around with it a lot. And even if you try something that you don't like, the great thing about it is you don't have to keep doing that thing. So you can, again, like Riley said, devote your time into stuff that you really enjoy doing. And I would just suggest try not to stress. Like, I know it's hard and it's a different environment. So it's going to be a transition, but you'll have people around you that want to support you. So just have a fun time with it.
Yeah, and then I'll add also kind of along the lines of everybody else, during your first year, if you declare your major when you come in, it's still kind of easy to switch because all your classes are going to be really similar to everybody else in the College of Engineering. So if you join a club and it's not related to your major, it's just something you're interested in, which is a good thing to do because then you find people who have similar interests. It's still pretty fluid throughout the College of Engineering during your first year. So you might actually figure out that you don't like what you've declared that way as well. And then the next question I'm going to send to Riley. If you're in the Honors College, would you recommend living in the Honors College residence halls?
So there are a couple of differences between the Honors College residence halls and the general residence halls. I lived in the engineering residence halls and I really enjoyed those because there were a lot of people who were taking the same classes as me. So anytime I had questions on homework, I was able to just go out and they could answer my question or we could work on it together. And I got to meet a lot of the people who I'm taking classes with, like, to this day. So that was really nice. But the Honors College dorms are nice for a couple of reasons. A lot of them have suite style living. And so that means that you'll have a roommate and then 2 other people living in a suite next to you and you share a bathroom rather than having public bathrooms. So that is a bit of a benefit. You also have access, you also are in a dorm with people who have different majors other than engineering. So that's kind of a good way to make friends with people who you might not be taking all of your classes with because you'll meet all the other engineers. So it's kind of about what you're wanting out of your residence hall experience. Did anyone live in the honors residence halls their freshman year?
Yeah, I lived in West and I loved it. It literally was the best year ever. So I definitely recommend it if you have the opportunity.
Okay, I'll take on the next question. So it is, does the Honors College accept students after starting at OSU, or can you only start as a first year? I'm going to hand that off to Riley.
So I actually started in the honors college my second year. I didn't know if I wanted to be in the honors college, and then after being in school for a year, I realized that I was really interested in the honors college, so I applied. But I believe that you aren't able to apply after your freshman year. So if that's something you're interested in, you have your freshman year to decide.
Awesome. I will get the next question. Do you need to know what major you are before joining a club, or can you join as a general engineering student? Something I really love about the College of Engineering is that we have over 50 engineering clubs, and you don't need to be declared in that major that the club's associated with in order to participate. In like most of them, they'll teach you all the things you need to know, especially if you get started early, especially your freshman year. They'll teach you the basics right off the get-go, and it gets really easy to become involved. I joined a civil engineering club my first year, and I came in declared mechanical, so it was really easy for me to like become a part of something just because I was interested in it. Does anybody else have like kind of similar experiences or about joining clubs that aren't, I mean, in your first year? No? Cool. All right. So I'm going to pass it off to Jack for the next question.
Okay, so the next question is, can you give some examples of the research you've done? I'm in chemical engineering, and one thing that I've been working on is using industrial waste products in concrete. So doing a lot of that. Has anybody else been involved in research?
I'm currently involved in research. I'm in chemical engineering, and it's a little bit different than chemical engineering. We do brewing research, so I look at how the DNA, like genetic makeup of yeast, affect flavors in beer and wine, and that's something I've been really interested in.
I'm also in research right now, and I joined, like I said before, through Ursa Engage, which was a great program to get started with. And my research is involved with organ preservation. So what my research lab is trying to do is create a static solution. So when an organ is taken out of the body and it sits in a solution before it's transplanted into a patient, we want to get that storage time to increase so that it's easier to store and just match with different people. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing. And it's really exciting because as a freshman, I did not think I would be doing this. So I think research is a really cool way just to get involved and see what you can do.
Awesome. So the next question, kind of on the same level of research, but is it common to get involved in research on campus? Yes, it's really common to get involved in research on campus. However, you don't have to. Do you guys want to talk about how you got involved in research? Riley, I guess you can go first.
Okay, yeah. I was taking my stage 1 honors thesis class, and one of the requirements for that class is you have to interview a professor that you might be interested in researching with. And so I went in under the guise of just wanting to learn more about their research. And then at the end I was like, cool, can I work in your lab? And they said yes, and now I work in their lab and I'm probably going to do my thesis with them. So it was really, really easy.
I would say the same thing for me. We had to do a CBE 101 project on kind of different professors and what they were doing. So I talked to one of the professors and we were both runners. So we talked about that, and he just kind of got me involved right away. So it was super cool.
Yeah, and like I said, Ursa Engaged was how I got involved. And kind of that application process is basically you will apply through an online program, and then, like I said, they'll give you a big pamphlet of professors that you can look through, and then you can go to the Undergraduate Research Center at Oregon State, and they'll help you draft an email and set up an appointment with a professor. So I set up an appointment with one of my professors, and then he invited me onto his team.
Okay, I'm going to take on the next question. So can you join student organizations that are outside your major? For example, as a Mechie, can you participate in the Biomedical Engineering Society? For that specifically, you definitely can. And in most organizations, you also can kind of go outside your major. Pretty wide array. Is there any clubs that you guys are involved in?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm in Concrete Canoe, so it's not a mechanical engineering club. But I think SNE has also had some pretty wide involvement outside of the College of Engineering as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been involved in student organizations. It's been definitely defining in my time in college, but in the College of Engineering, it's really like all the teams are multidisciplinary, except for maybe some like honor societies. There are some major specific professional societies where, you know, you could technically join, but it probably wouldn't do you any good to. But yeah, they're mostly open. And then in terms of how to sign up for student organizations and when, they're open all year round. You can join at any time, whenever it's convenient for you. But we do have like our club fairs in the fall. We also do another club fair in the winter or some sort of club showcase event. And to sign up for them, it's very much as easy as going up to one of the people in the club and saying, hey, can I come? And then you just go. So it's super low key, but it's very amazing. And I highly recommend joining a student organization. Outside of engineering, I've been part of the Indian Student Association, and I've also been involved with our Orange Media Network, which isn't a club necessarily, but it's a media network, and I was a DJ there. So you can really try out different things on campus.
Awesome. So I'll get the next question. Is a minor doable or double major doable in engineering? For me, I'm also going to pass it around a little bit, but it is definitely possible, especially depending on your program. For my program, both of my majors, mechanical and manufacturing, are housed in the same school. So the coursework lines up pretty well, and they have a program for that double major. So for me, it's pretty easy, but I also know people who are taking, like have a Spanish minor, so it's outside of the College of Engineering entirely, and they're still able to do that as well. It just tacks on a little bit of time. A lot of students do like a minor in business, which is also outside the College of Engineering, and so it's doable. It's kind of a personal preference. So does anybody else have any more experience with double majoring or minors of any kind?
I have a minor in material science and chemistry. So chemistry was a little redundant. I just had to take one extra class, and I figured why not. And then material science, I'm interested in doing things with materials and polymers potentially. And so I figured I would switch, like I just have to organize my electives that I would already be taking in engineering to kind of fit that minor. So it's pretty easy to do.
Okay, I'll take the next question. So the next question is, how easy is it to switch majors? And kind of similar to the last one, it is super easy. You just need to talk to an advisor. But how much credits are going to transfer just kind of depends on what major you're switching to and switching from. I switched from bioengineering to chemical engineering, which since I'm a second year was the exact same. So super easy, but that can kind of vary depending on your personal situation.
Yeah, and to follow up with that, if you come in as general engineering or kind of just any engineering in general, your first year is pretty much the same for everybody with like maybe a couple minor differences. So switching majors your first year or coming in as general engineering, it's pretty easy to kind of move around. If you come in as general engineering at the end of your first year and you talk with your advisor, you will be declaring your major. So that is kind of how that works. You have your whole first year to kind of figure that out if you're in the general engineering program. Another question we had was, what computer do you recommend we get and what advice do you have for deciding? There's specifications on the College of Engineering website. I recommend going with those because you're going to use your computer a lot. However, if you, I do recommend staying within a budget. Set a budget before you start looking and then kind of weigh the options that you have. We do have computer labs available on campus. So if you like can't afford a computer that fits all the specifications, we do have computer labs available. However, it is convenient to do it at home and you are required to have one. So does anybody have any recommendations that help them pick their computer at all? I got this question the other day also, so I feel like it's a good one to answer. Okay, never mind. I know like one question I had the other day about it was if you had to pick between like a larger screen and like a smaller screen with computers that had the same specifications. I said to that answer or to that question, if you are going to use your computer for everything and you don't mind the added weight, a larger display can be a little bit beneficial. However, if you are going to take it with you to class every day, then a smaller display might be a little bit beneficial, especially if you're going to utilize the computer labs or if you have a PC at home or a dual monitor ability. So that was kind of where I'm going with that. Jack, do you want to get the next question?
Okay, so the next question is, are any of you in marching band or know anyone who is in band that is engineering? Is it doable? I have a couple friends in my college that are in marching band, so I don't really know personally what the workload is like, but I know they're able to manage it pretty well and get some pretty good grades too. So I think it's pretty doable from their experience.
Okay, I can get the next one. How can you get an internship outside of MECOP or CCAP, especially if MECOP does not accept your students in your majors, like bioengineering? Does anyone want to talk about how they got their internships?
Yeah, I can take this one because I don't have, I'm not accepted in MECOP because I'm a bioengineer. And pretty much what I did was I went to the Career Development Center and I looked online through LinkedIn and Handshake and just went through a bunch of different internships, and there's just like millions out there that are posted, and then you just go about applying for them. I worked directly with the Career Development Center and they really helped me with my resume and my cover letters and applying to those. And I actually got into 3 different internships this year. So it's a really good opportunity and resource to go.
Yeah, I also got my internship outside of the MECOP CCAP program. I actually got mine from the career fair actually in the fall. And I got both my internships that way. It really just for me was a personal preference of I wanted to do a shorter term internship and I wanted to pick my own internship. So that's why I went with that. And it was pretty simple. Like you just go into the career fair, ideally with a plan of which employers you want to talk to. They're there all day. And then you could just be really open with them, ask them any questions you have, obviously make a great impression on them. And then you could get interviews on campus the next day even. So it was a really painless opportunity, and the range of employers at the career fair changes every year, and it's pretty good.
Okay, I'll answer the next question. If you don't live in the engineering or honors dorms, even though you're an honors engineering student, do you still have access to the benefits of those dorms? I know personally that all engineering students can access the makerspace in Buxton. And then also I know for honors college, all honors students can access kind of the general study area, but you can't access their specific door floors or rooms or anything like that. I don't know if anyone's got any other experience on kind of like the benefits of being in those dorms, but that's what I know.
Awesome. So I guess I'll take the next question. Are there any social events within the College of Engineering? Sneha, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, yes, I do. So I'm the president of the Engineering Student Council, and we put on social events for the College of Engineering, especially in winter term for Engineers Week. We have a week-long celebration of engineers and engineering. We have events every day that range from basically club pitch competitions, free lunches provided by industry partners, and then we have a diversity event where we bring on different speakers and have discourse about diversity in engineering and inclusion. And then on Friday of Engineers Week, we have an event called Engineers Rock the Plaza, and we just get a bunch of bands and some drinks and just hang out with your friends and enjoy, you know, a fun night away from homework. So those are some of the main social events. But other than that, I would say like the club events are definitely the best way to get the engineering social experience, because almost every club puts on at least like one social event every term.
Okay, I can take the next question. Do you know what majors are accepted in MECOP? I know that there is a MECOP specific link on the OSU website, but I'm not sure on what the specific majors are. Does anyone else know that?
I don't think so. But I know that if you search it on the College of Engineering, if you search the MECOP program, it'll pop up. So a little bit of homework if you're interested in that. Another question that we had is the Leadership Academy a minor? No, the Leadership Academy is a soft skills development program. It's completely on your own time. It doesn't contribute towards your GPA or anything like that. However, it is beneficial for you as an individual solely for the purpose that you get to develop some skills that are going to be really useful in industry that you're not going to learn in your classes. You get to meet with a lot of industry professionals. You get to go through mock interviews. You get to go to different workshops from a lot of different people. A lot of them are alum. And so that's kind of cool. Does anyone talk about kind of their experience with Leadership Academy and how they think it benefited them?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about Leadership Academy. I've been involved since my freshman year, and it's been really amazing just to be able to get involved with and meet a bunch of industry partners, really practice your networking and public speaking skills, because I think that's something you don't get to do a lot in our engineering classes. And then also just the events that they put on. Last year I went on the Seattle trek. So we were in Seattle for a weekend, visiting a bunch of different companies and going on tours and things like that. And it was really amazing just to be able to get in the middle of the action and see what's going on. So I highly recommend Leadership Academy also, since it's free and you can do it at your own pace. There's really no harm. It's always good to work on professional development.
Jack, do you want to get the next question?
Yeah, okay. So next question is, what is your favorite part of COE? I think we can all answer that, but my favorite part is the people. It's a ton of fun to hang out with people who are interested in the same stuff as you are. So I'm gonna pass it off to Sneha next.
Yeah, my favorite part about the College of Engineering is just the mass amount of opportunities available. It's also the main reason why I picked Oregon State, was because I really didn't know what kind of engineering I wanted to do. So the fact that we had like 15 different engineering majors was really ideal, and how easy it is to switch between majors and all the clubs you can get involved with.
I think the College of Engineering at Oregon State is really unique because there's no competitive feel to any of my classes. I feel like everyone in my classes wants me to do well, and they're always willing to like offer help or help me out with homework or study together if we want to. And it's a really, really nice community where it feels like we're all building each other up rather than competing against each other, which I really like.
Yeah, I can add on to that. Definitely what my fellow ambassadors had said. Also the fact that it's just challenging in a way, but it also feels really good once you like complete your classes or complete a task that was really challenging to do. And the fact that you know that once you get out into the real world, you're going to be doing something that's probably going to make a difference in society, and that's exciting to me.
I really like Riley said, it's a really cooperative environment. I've never felt like my peers are trying to make sure I fail. In fact, I feel like everyone's kind of clinging to each other, especially your first year, to kind of find a community and find people they can work with for the next 4 years, which is really nice. Everybody's really kind of outgoing, and they all want to kind of build that study group. It's really encouraged as well that you do so. And there's also so many resources. If like you can't find a group of people to do your classes with, because you're going to have pretty much all the same classes for the next 4 years, there's so much resources to kind of get help and move forward. I was in the Math Learning Center a lot my freshman year. The Mole Hole is really helpful. So there's a lot of like free, fun places to go and kind of get help on stuff, which I think is really, really nice, because I never felt like they were trying to push me out of the program, which is, it helps you get through school a little bit. Alrighty, so the next question, what sort of things does the College of Engineering offer to help you with grad school and things like that? So the Career Development Center helps with grad applications as well. They'll help you look for a grad program that suits you and kind of help you get through that application. So Jack, do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, we've been helping out students kind of get through the application part of graduate programs. And a big part of that is like mock interviewing. So we do a lot of help with that. And then also your advisors and different people in the programs can kind of give you a little bit more specific information on what you might be interested in. But we do a lot with trying to make sure you're as successful as possible applying to graduate programs. Okay, I'll take the next question. Is it hard to study abroad as an engineering major? I haven't done it personally, but I know that if you plan ahead with your advisors, it's very doable. Has anyone on the panel studied abroad? Okay, so
but I do know about, there's a couple of programs within the College of Engineering. It can get challenging the higher up you go, but especially your first year, like talk to your advisor right away. If you're interested in studying abroad, it is possible. You just need to get it done earlier in your engineering career if you don't want to put back your graduation very much. We also have some programs if you're doing mechanical engineering with a minor in material science. We have the Atlantis program, is an opportunity to study abroad in Germany for a little bit. So there are some programs just depending on your different major, but OSU Go, we're partnered with a bunch of universities and colleges all around the world. So it is possible. Just make sure that you talk to your advisor right away. And then I'm going to pass it off to Sneha.
Awesome. So we're just going to go ahead and wrap up the session today. Like I said earlier, all of this information is going to be available on our website. So you can go back a little bit later to check on the video and maybe even access the slides. Other than that, we're super grateful to have you here. And we hope that we could have answered your questions. Just a reminder that our next webinar will be on April 21st, and it's going to be more geared towards parents and guardians. And you can get some feedback from our faculty and staff here. So make sure you can check in. And then we also have office hours every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. That link is also going to be on the same website where you accessed and registered for this webinar. So you can just pop in and ask us any questions that you might have, and it's a lot more casual. And lastly, just remind you all to join us or email us if you have any questions. The email is coe.ambassadors@oregonstate.edu. So other than that, we're really grateful to have you here, and thank you for coming.